Bonjour, Mishko Pakanan, Quain Adishna Kasmang no Dam. Hi, everybody. It's Sandy Boucher here once again. I'm Red Thunderbolt Woman of the Loon Clan, a proud member of Seine River First Nation in Treaty 3 territory in Northern Ontario, and I just had me a lightning bolt moment. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I'm Red Thunderbolt Woman. I am said to represent that split second in time when the thunder sounds exactly as the lightning strikes. Anyone who lives in an area that has thunderstorms knows that when those two things happen at the same time, that means the storm is directly overhead. Next time a thunderstorm happens, listen. You will hear quite a large amount of time, well, minutes, but still between seeing the lightning and then the thunder. And then over time, those two will get closer and closer until they happen together. And then they will start to, the time between them will increase again as the storm moves on. So I'm that split second in time when the thunder's directly overhead, which means, well, I tell my audiences, I don't do subtle very well. But what I meant by a lightning bolt moment is one of those revelation moments. Oprah calls them aha moments. You know, that second, my mom would say the nickel dropped, right? It's just that moment of clarity where you're like, oh my God, I never realized that. That just happened to me maybe 5 minutes ago. It's almost 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning, kind of in my jammies, hanging out in my office, just puttering, doing things I enjoy. And it was like, holy crap. So I knew I had to do my podcast today. It was like, this is what I'm going to talk about. So, if you follow my career at all, you know I'm talking about Indigenous empowerment and Indigenous Canadian reconciliation, which I do believe in. I saw an article the other day that reconciliation can't happen. The same old argument. We can't happen because we were never good with each other in the first place. Who said you had to be? Who said you had to be? I have seen, we talk about reconciliation on a national level with warring parties that have always been at war. And we want to reconcile the past and come up with a new future. That's reconciliation. We can do that. I have faith in you. I was having a conversation with a girlfriend last night, in fact, and she asked me if any other people do the work I do. Oops, have my phone on in the background. Bad podcaster. Put that on silent. She asked me if anyone else does what I do. And my honest Anishinaabe answer was, I don't know how many other people believe in white people. I don't know how many other Indigenous people I don't know how many of them there are. Indigenous people who honestly believe Canada and white people can get it together and care enough to stop the insanity and stop the oppression of Indigenous people. I believe in that future. Kind of like Viktor Frankl's book. Like, you're going to survive a concentration camp, you better have hope for the future. And the residential school era, if you get your hands on the Canadian Holocaust, I've heard it referred in that way often. And I'm not saying that's where we are right now, but what I'm saying is it's not good and it definitely needs to be reconciled. So that's the work I do. And I talk about that on a regular basis. And no, I'm not into shame or guilt. And no, I don't attack people. I help non Indigenous Canadians understand what they're seeing in our communities and why they're seeing it. And I help them make suggestions and help them figure out what they can do to be part of the positive change. And I create safe spaces where they can ask questions. And it's okay for them to say, I don't understand. Why can't we fix this? Or why do Indigenous people do this? Or what is the issue? Or they admit that they don't understand what assimilation means, right? And what is cultural appropriation? I love the sessions I do because we have the most amazing conversations and no one gets attacked for not knowing. No one gets shamed for not knowing, right? It's just awesome. Anyways, in my work, in the seminar, I am often referring to the 3 natural human reactions to oppression. So these are the 3 well-documented ways that a human being, not just an Indigenous person, any human being that belongs to a group that has been oppressed for a long period of time, for one, they're going to internalize that. So they're going to start believing the BS. They're going to start believing the stereotypes about themselves and other people in their group, that we can't do this, that we are less than. It's the saddest thing ever in my mind. But if they belong to a group, an oppressed group, for a long period of time, there are 3 reactions you're going to see. And if you think of Indigenous peoples living within Canadian borders, we see these reactions every single day. What my lightning bolt moment was I think we are all aware, unless you're living under a rock somewhere, and then you're probably not listening to this podcast. If you are, that's cool. But I think we're all aware of what's going on in Israel, in Gaza, with the Palestinians, like the whole scary insanity that is robbing way too many children and way too many people of their lives. The Palestinians are an oppressed people. The people in the Gaza Strip. I have yet to see any denial of the fact that they've been living in what I saw described many times as an open-air prison for the longest time. And again, 3 natural human reactions to oppression. And there's a point in why I want to share this. I will get to that point, I promise. The first natural human reaction to oppression, are you ready for this? Thinking of what's going on in the world right now? Violence. Natural human reaction. You keep oppressing people. You keep denying them supports that they need. You keep restricting them. You keep telling them they're less than. You keep doing all the different aspects of oppression. At some point, they're lashing out. At some point, they're saying, enough, I've had it, and they're rebelling. Canada, again, are you listening? Oppressing people is not going to end well. But I think, just a guess, based on my years of work in this field, I think oppressors always think of and hope for the second natural human reaction. So the first one's violence. The second one, as Anishinaabe, is the one that scares the daylights out of me. That's because the second one is acquiescence, the complete and total giving up. When I'm working with my audiences, I always tell them you can recognize these people in your communities. When I'm in a First Nation community, you can recognize these people because they say things like, why bother? Why bother going to school? It's never going to change anything. Why bother sending my children to school? It didn't work for me. It's not going to work for them. Why bother bidding for that job? Why bother getting out of bed? And like I said, I think that's where the oppressors are hoping people will just go, that they'll break their spirits and that the people will just give in and resign themselves. And we see that. Many people do that. Look back over history at oppressed groups. You can see it today. I see it in First Nation communities. But that is not the only reaction, and violence is equally as common. So be careful. Canada, are you listening? There's a third natural human reaction, and it is definitely the rule I've lived my life by, keeping in mind I am Anishinaabe. I have definitely been looked down on and spit on because I'm Indigenous. I was impoverished. I'm a 10-year domestic abuse survivor. I mean, in so many ways in my past, I was the stereotype, alcohol blowing my life apart. I mean, name the stereotype, I was there. But that third natural human reaction is nonviolent resistance. It is daring to say you are not the stereotype. Indigenous people listening to my voice right now, it is daring to not be the stereotype. It is daring to get an education. It is daring to have a strong voice without being an attacking voice. It is daring to be respectful when other people aren't. It is daring to believe in yourself when no one else does. It is daring to have a successful life without giving up being Indigenous. So, the next time you see the news or hear the news and you're watching what's happening in a First Nation community or across the world, remember the three natural human reactions to oppression: violence, acquiescence, and nonviolent resistance. My favorite quote, and I can never remember the guy's name, and that makes me horrible, is when a flower doesn't bloom, you fix the environment in which it grows, not the flower. There's nothing wrong with the people reacting to oppression. They are reacting to their environment. I have long said Indigenous people in Canada are trying to grow in soil doused in gasoline. And it's not only happening here. We got to keep that in mind. Oppression may seem like a really good idea for the people doing the oppressing, but that's coming back to bite you. That is not a permanent solution. Why? Because we're human beings and we're going to react. Some are going to give up. Some are going to get really angry. Some are going to find a way to resist in a non-violent way. Wanted to share that with you because obviously I know that totally relates to my work. Just didn't realize till this morning how much it relates to the world's work. Now, last week I promised you that I was going to give you some sneak peeks into Honorary Indian Decolonized, which I guess is my latest book, the reworking of my first book, and it's going to be coming out. I'm going to guess now, we're in the editing process right now. I'm going to guess that's not going to happen until the new year. But today is October 21st, and today in the book is a poem that was in the original book. It has not changed. And considering we're kind of talking about empowerment and overcoming oppression, this kind of turned out perfect. Except this time I'm speaking in the words, I'm speaking as a child to my parents, what I need. And maybe if you're a parent or know a parent, you can share this with them. It's called Mommy, Please. Mommy, please don't weaken me. Don't tie my shoes for me. Let my tiny fingers fumble with the laces in frustration. For the smile at my accomplishment is worth the wait, isn't it? Mommy, do not weaken me by keeping me safe at your side. I must run and learn and grow and fall and cry and heal and become the man I am destined to be. Guide me. Be there for me when I seek your counsel. But when the time comes and I must go off on my own, have faith in your teachings and in your Son. Raise me to be strong and then let me test my strength. If I never lift the boulder, I will never know how strong I am. So let me go off on my own to make my mother proud. Mommy, please don't cry. For although I do not suckle at your breast or cuddle under your arm anymore, I have you with me in my heart. where you will always remain. Now, I'm not a son, I am a daughter. My mom's been gone a long, long time, but I can absolutely say that she is definitely in my heart as much as she was any of the days we spent together. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope it got you thinking. Maybe you received a lightning bolt. Remember, 3 natural human reactions to oppression, to the environment in which a person is trying to exist. Maybe, just maybe, that'll change your opinion of what you're seeing on the news. Until next week, I love you. Take care. Bye-bye.